ministry. The early church laid hands on everybody. We've reduced it, and in some ways it's good, but we've reduced it just to pastors or missionaries going to the ministry. We'll have an ordination service, and I've been part of one, and I'm an elder in our district of churches where I'm from, and so I'm involved in that, and we just did one here the other day, and I love it. It's wonderful. But the early church had a larger perspective than we have. Do you remember Acts chapter 6, what the environment was going on there? Some widows were not being fed, and people were complaining, and they said, you know, we need to be free. The apostles said, we need to be free for the word and for prayer. So let's line up some people based on some qualifications about their life so that we can entrust this to them. And they laid hands on them and prayed for them. Stephen was one of that group. What was Stephen laid hands on to do? Hands were laid on Stephen to go wait on some tables. Now, you don't know the rest of the story at that point because, you know, if you were in the moment, we just have a problem and the waiters are not there that we need. Let's get some waiters up here and let's lay hands on the waiters. What we've done is many times we forget in our churches that every ministry, and I'm guilty of this, and I said publicly to our church a few weeks ago, we're going to correct this, but I believe that every person that ministers in our churches needs hands laid on them. If you're washing the toilet, you need a hand laid on you. If you're preaching the word, you need a hand laid on you, because everything that we do in the ministry, whether it's preaching the word or painting houses in the community or feeding the poor, they are simply vehicles. Vehicles that transport us face to face with people in need, and then the supernatural of God kicks in, and out of that vehicle we minister to people. The vehicles are never the end of themselves. And when Paul said to Timothy, hands were laid on you, don't neglect this gift. It was put in there when hands were laid on you. It's taking him back to a moment where Timothy is starting to possibly, hopefully remember what was put in there. Because later at the end of what I'm going to share with you today, I'm going to ask you to go back into your experience and I'm going to ask you, do you remember what was put in you? Yeah, I got a master's. No, I'm talking about your master's degree. Oh, no, I'm part of this church. I'm not talking about that. Oh, you don't understand. I've led 400 people. No, I'm not talking about that. What was put in you? What was put in you? Because if you don't know what's put in you, in a minute, you're not going to know what to fan. 2 Timothy, flip over one book. 2 years has gone by about, and this has not resolved itself. 2 years has gone by, and Timothy hasn't gotten the message. It's gone from a suggestion to a command. He says, you know, the first book, you probably want to think about this. I can see some things in your life. And now a couple of years goes by, and it's desperate. Paul says to Timothy in 2 Timothy 1:5, I remember your genuine faith, for you share the faith that first filled your grandmother Lois and your mother Eunice. And I know that that same faith continues strong in you. This is why I remind you to fan into flames the spiritual gift God gave you when I laid my hands on you. For God has not given us a spirit of fear and timidity, but of power, love, and self-discipline. You know, there's people in this room that can dance circles around most of us pastors in Greek word studies, but I'm going to give you one anyway. The word there where it says stir the gift, the word for gift there is charisma. Not that you have charisma, so to speak, but it's a supernatural deposit. Before the laying on of hands, it wasn't in Timothy. It wasn't there. He didn't get it because he was born on the right side of the tracks. He didn't get it because he was educated at the right school. Something got put into that guy when the elders laid hands on him, and that charisma was transitioned into this man. Here it is, poof. And his life became a depository of something supernatural. That word fan's an interesting word too. It's defined in a lot of different ways. I kind of just think of it like this. But it has more meaning than that. This charisma that's gone without reignition for a long time in Timothy now needs to be touched in several ways. Some of the ways that word fan, this flame in you, is translated. One of them means to reignite a fire that previously burned. Go back and get that fire that you used to have and reignite it. I don't know if you've ever gone camping. I used to camp a lot when I was a kid up around Hat Creek up in Northern California out of Redding. Dad was a fly fisherman, so before Hat Creek was the world destination for fly fishing. I've got Dad's fly rod, 1938 fly rod, hanging on my office wall that Mom gave him when he was a young married guy, and I've got pictures of me at Hat Creek with Dad, and he's working that same pole. And we'd go camping, and my brother and I, our job was to go out and get as dirty as we could. And we were, when I smiled at Mom, the only things that my eyeballs were white, my teeth were white, and everything else was just the dirt. It was just, I was a mess. And at night, Dad would go over and he'd start a campfire, and then the next morning we'd get up and Dad would be out over those coals that are now just ash, and he would be looking for that one ember, and then he'd roll the paper up and put it on top, and he'd start the fire again from that. And that's what this word fan means, is to go find the coal in the fire that looks like it's dead and reignite it again. It also means to resuscitate. It's translated this way. It means to resuscitate a dead body. I remember when I was in college, I swam through school and in college competitively, and I had to take this water safety course, and part of it was working with something called Recessa Annie, this CPR course where this zombie-esque looking thing was here with a face and dwarfy legs, and you'd hold it back and they put alcohol in the mouth. You'd learn how to properly do CPR. That's the word, fan, resuscitate a dead body. It's a word also that is used for a horse, not just any horse, but like one of those big Clydesdales. It's the horse that as soon as the master gives the reins, all the muscles of that monstrous horse come and pulls heavy weights. It's the giddy up. Paul's saying to Timothy, it's time to whip the reins and giddy up, buddy.